No public, will move on to a roll call of members.
Tara Price Gritzmacher.
David Brakebill.
Ashley McGarity.
Kelly Kelly.
Joe Petteruti.
Not a member, but Jeff Weed.
CL Quillen.
And can we have verification of the posting of the agenda?
Struggling here today. Yes, the agenda was posted on July 21st in
Thank you.
all of the appropriate places.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to item number 6, consideration and possible action, approval of the agenda as submitted or revised. Does anyone have any revisions to the agenda as it has been presented? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Dave, a second from Joe. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. On to agenda number 7, consideration and possible action of approval of the minutes from the meeting on June 22nd, 2023. The minutes are included in your packet. Now, are there any edits or corrections?
The number 7 for the approval of the previous month's minutes, it should have been May. I'm not sure what the date was, but it was in April.
Oh. Perfect. Let me get the correct date for that. Okay, the corrected date would be May 25th, 2023.
That would have been 2 meetings ago, though.
We're looking at the minutes from last meeting, which will include the approval of the minutes from the meeting before.
Right. So the last ones, we're looking at May and June, I'm sorry.
No, we're approving we're
June
looking at
minutes.
the June minutes, which include on item number 7 an approval of the
June
minutes.
minutes.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm with you now.
Okay, are there any other edits or revisions?
Sorry, one more.
Oh.
And I
look at Seal
missed these when I
catching
was, for the library park pass, it wasn't 27 checkouts since June 15th, it was 27 checkouts since we started the program.
Still a lot of checkouts.
Yeah.
Now I feel sheepish, I haven't found any edits. All right, any other revisions? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes as revised. From anyone aside from member David Brakebill.
His microphone was on, so I was letting you go.
He can't, he wasn't here.
That's true.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes with the revisions as we discussed.
Thank you, Joe. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tara. We have a motion from Joe and a second from Tara to approve the minutes from our June meeting as revised. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And abstentions?
One abstention.
Thank you. And the motion passes. And we'll move on to Library Board of Trustees reports. I can start us off. I have officially completed book number 26 since graduating in late May, and have been thoroughly enjoying the summer reading program. I discovered brag tags, which I think maybe my friend librarian Joe thought that I might not be super into, but actually I am really into. So I'm cultivating a nice little beaded brag tag necklace that ultimately I think is going to hang from my rear view mirror, so I can talk about it with anybody who rides in my car. And then the other exciting thing is, along with a great library patron, Allison Deagle, who writes book reviews in the Fallon Post, we're starting a crossover series with our 2 articles where Allison will review a book that has some sort of culinary setting in addition to probably being a more substantive rom-com. And then I will prepare a dish that is referenced in the book. So, hoping to turn this into a little bit of a drinking wine on a porch and discussing lighthearted beach reads. And that's it for me, folks. Are there any other director reports?
Got nothing.
My summer reading has fallen off a cliff, and I don't know why. I did actually know I'm going to bring this up later when you talk about it, but let's just say my summer reading has fallen off a cliff, and I don't know why. And at our next meeting, I will have a report on another public library in another area in another part of the country because I'm going on vacation.
So, Dave, the only recommendation that I can make that I've noticed when my reading falls off a cliff is that sometimes it happens when I get stuck in a book that I'm not really enjoying, but I feel some sort of weird obligation to finish reading before I move on. And my only words about that is something I repeat to myself a lot, which is that there are too many books out there to allow yourself to get stuck on one that's not clicking for you. And if that's the case, then just return it and check out a new one. Right. Tara, anything? Ashley? Okay. Well, that was brief. We'll move on to agenda item number 9, Library Director's Report. CL?
Well, summer reading is going well, even though Dave is not supporting us this year. We have 597 signups as of the last time I checked, which will probably be our end total, given that where we are in the summer. And Kelly, I'm happy to put together a lengthy list of culinary fiction with recipes for you. We've been working on books, bites, and beverages, posters, or not posters, but flyers, and tickets are available. Joe has some, I have some, so I sold, I think, possibly the first 2 yesterday at my training class to the school's assistant superintendent and one of the other staff that were there. So we're getting started, but it is 2 weeks from tomorrow, so buy your tickets and get going. And Kelly, I'll be talking to you later. Migration from Polaris to Cohot and Aspen is mostly going smoothly. There's been a few little hiccups, as Dave assumed there would be. And we're still working through just a couple of things. We're having some problems with the sorter and it knowing where to sort things, which is unfortunate. There is, our statistics for circulation are missing because I haven't been able to pull them from Polaris, and I'm trying to get those so that we will have all of our statistics for the year before too much longer. But we don't have as much access now that we're no longer with that system, and we're also still trying to figure out how to pull those reporting statistics from the new system. So hopefully I'll have those for the next meeting. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update with Hoopla. My colleagues have long described Hoopla as a teenager with a credit card because it can get out of control very quickly. With that in mind, and the fact that what we were spending jumped up considerably. And when I looked, there were certain users who were checking out, 20, 25 items in a month. I did decide to cap it. I've brought it down to a limit of, I believe it's 7 items per month, and there's a set limit for the month because we were starting to exceed that. We do pay for each checkout on Hoopla, unlike with Overdrive where we are they both have their pluses and their minuses. Overdrive's gotten much more complicated. It used to be that you purchased the title in ebook or audiobook format, and that was it, you had it. You can still do that sometimes, but then some of them, there's either a time limit or a checkout limit on those items. So everything's a little bit different, but it just seemed like that was going to, it just in the last couple months has since I've been here, has started to creep up, and I'm not sure that we want to be dumping all of our money into Hoopla. Several new initiatives for the fall. You'll be seeing a newsletter next week for, hoping to have a monthly newsletter go out via email. I'm hoping to get some book discussions started, and I've spoken, to Kelly a little bit. Was it Joe? I can't remember if I spoke with one of you or both of you about places in town where we might do an evening book discussion at a local business. And I've talked to Lucy at the chamber a little bit too about some possibilities for that. Jay is starting a teen library council for the teens to try to get them into the library and try to find out more about what they're interested in. She's also starting an elementary age book discussion in August, so that should be fun too. And we've got some other ideas, just to give you some ideas of what we're working on though. I finished the county management training yesterday. It was very good. It was good to get an opportunity to meet our new assistant school superintendent and a couple of other people from the county. There were a lot of people from Lyon and Mineral and Eureka too, I believe. So it was about, there were 25 or 30 of us in the class. I'm glad it's over though, because being out of the library 2 days in a week is a lot. The co-op leadership retreat was supposed to be in August. They've changed the date to September. So I'll be out in Ely for that. And as I mentioned previously, the Association for Rural and Small Libraries Conference is in September. So I'll also be out of the building for that. I did want to bring up just a couple of things that more informational that are not on the agenda because they happened since that came out. We did have a gentleman fall the other day when he was visiting the library. The staff member who saw it kind of out of the corner of her eye did not notice that he tripped on anything. It seemed like he just went down, and that was what was reported as well. But he did have a laceration on his left eye and a bloody nose, and so we did fill out an incident report, and Joff came over and took pictures for the insurance. The other thing which I've spoken to Jeff about and Joe is that we did get, Buzz came by with a letter from the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights from a equal opportunity specialist investigator.
If I can jump in, this is something that's not agendized, and
Okay,
I'd advise just not to address it at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
yep. And that's all I have.
CL, a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
With regards to Hoopla, are you starting to explore alternatives? Or do we even have alternatives?
There really
to
aren't any other alternatives, and I think it just gets really complicated when you start adding. There is one other service, which is through Baker and Taylor. Most libraries don't seem to subscribe to it. We are one of the few in the co-op that does subscribe to Hoopla. Most everybody else just has Libby and Overdrive. So I think it's a nice additional resource, and there is some overlap, but there's a lot of things that Hoopla has that Overdrive does not. So I think it's including music and movies, but there is some overlap in the book titles, not completely, or I could shut one of them off. So I think it is used. People do seem to like it. It's just, like I said, there's a little less control over how much you spend.
Okay. Will you be able to keep track of people if someone does start, or people do start complaining about the caps that you've set?
We've had one or two questions. I wouldn't say complaints, more questions. And when the staff have explained that it's due to the fact that we're paying a per fee, everybody has been very understanding of that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
there any other questions for?
I have a comment about the new ILS. I had a book checked out, and we went through the big change, and I got a notice that said, your book is due. And then I got a notice that said, your book is overdue. On the previous ILS, I would get a, hey, your book is due, but we're gonna check it back out for you in 2 more weeks, or whatever the time limit was. Is there some option, or is there some way that we can make this new ILS do the same thing, or is it just gonna be cut and dry?
That is supposed to be turned on, and it does not seem to be working the way that it's supposed to. I know I tried to check out a book on Libby, and it told me that I had books overdue, and they were 3 books that were overdue, but that should have checked out again myself. So, yeah, that's definitely something that we want to address and try to get fixed, especially because it's that impacting some of our electronic services. Because even though we don't charge overdue fees and all of those other things, it's cutting people off.
And I know this is more of a budget report question, but since we've talked about Hoopla, do you know what's the difference? What's our difference in money out month to month on Hoopla? Like, how much more did it jump up that you went, oh, we need
It
to?
had jumped up like $300 more a month, which we had been spending about I want to say 16 or 1700, and so it was starting to get up. Actually, I think it was a little bit less. I want to say last year we spent $11,000 on Hoopla, and so with a $300 a month increase, which is what it was, that seemed like it was gonna, that would have been an additional $4,000, roughly $3,500.
I just had very similar questions about Hoopla, about if, really, if you're going to do like a push of letting people know that there's now a cap, or if you were just going to be waiting and dealing with that person by person, if folks ask questions, but it sounds like the latter is the case.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision on that. There weren't that many people that were using that many checkouts each month. It was only just a handful. But the numbers with Hoopla are still small, so it was.
Yeah, I see a lot of value in Hoopla. It doesn't necessarily have all the new releases, but the fact that you don't have to wait in line, I know
Yes.
that people
Yes.
really like that, not having to like be in a queue and wait for a particular copy like you would with either Overdrive or like a hard book. So I think that especially as we're starting to do discussion groups around books, having Hoopla as a tool is really helpful, because otherwise it's like you have to bring in 20 copies of a book, or,
Yes.
and this way, if the book is in Hoopla, everybody can read it at the same time.
Right.
So I think that's a nice
Yeah, and I
aspect.
think as we go along, we'll continue to evaluate the situation with both of them. Libby, we choose each book that goes out. Hoopla, they've got a catalog, so we get it whether we want it or not. And so there are some things that they tend to be more mid-level, mid-tier, and you're not going to find the James Pattersons or the Nora Roberts in Hoopla, but you are going to find some solid things. Unfortunately, again, because we don't know what's going in there, sometimes there is some overlap between the two, or they've picked up something that we had, previously. So there's not really too much that we can do about that, but it is definitely, I think the fact that the multiple copies definitely makes it, a good option to have.
Great. I think that putting a cap on individual checkouts through it is a reasonable intervention and tool for that.
I agree.
Especially because people might not, I think that the differentiation between how we pay for the services between Hoopla and Libby isn't something that your average patron is going to
No.
understand or even have any cause to know. And so when there isn't that wait list and so on and so forth, I could see the inclination of going browsing and just downloading a bunch of books, and then maybe you read them, maybe you don't read them,
That too.
Plus, with magazines and music being available on there, it just seems like it could be very much like a teenager with a credit card,
Yes.
with no limit on it, so.
Yes, I do have, I'm anticipating a call back from Hoopla next week to talk further about the best ways to handle the limits, because I just kind of went in there and sort of, set some things, but I'm hoping that maybe they have some recommendations, which, because, I did put the 7 limit, but again, depending on how many people, that could, as the service, as people hear about it, that could continue to be a problem. So now there is the 7 cap, but there's also a cap on spending. So there are going to be people who, depending on what time of day they come in, they may get a message that, sorry, can't check anything out today. And I'd like to see if there's some way to make that a little bit friendlier.
Perfect. Are there any other questions about the library director's report? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to, thank you, CL. Set the date and time of the next regularly scheduled Library Board of Trustees meeting, which is set for Thursday, August 24th, 2023 at 3 p.m. here at the Churchill County Administration Building at 155 North Taylor Street in the Commission Chambers.
I'll be away that week.
Okay. Noted. And then moving on to old business number 1 for information only, the utility bill.
Sure. Yes, there was a question about the utility bill, and I hadn't realized, much like many of you, that we're paying for all 3 spaces. It's not about the reason that we have the 3 bills is not because we're paying for both halves of the annex. It's because we are also paying for electric, water, and sewer for the lot in the middle. And while there isn't generally a lot of that being used in that middle lot, with the carnival, those things were used, and there are different times when that is in use.
So just to clarify, when it actually comes to the library annex building itself, we're only paying for the space that the library.
That I'm not 100% clear on. I don't think that they've got it segmented so that this outlet is getting charged to emergency management and, that outlet is, but I think that the usage that we're seeing for that building is very minimal. The bills there have not been high, and I think just with some of the services that the county provides
Maybe
for
just
us.
move on. Okay.
Yes.
I'll make a conscientious decision to do that.
What's that, move on?
Yeah. All right, moving on to new business, literally moving on to new business. Item 1, consideration and possible action to approve the monthly budget report. Budget is in your packets. Please take a moment to look through it again, ideally, and now's the time if you have any questions or need any clarification.
CL, on page 12, under contract services program, there was a workshop at the library last month. Can you tell me
Yes.
about that? I couldn't
Sure.
remember what it might have been.
Sure.
With mini fan illustration?
Yes. That was a children's program. She's an illustrator. Jay made a connection. Actually, I think she reached out to us because she was going to be in town for part of the summer. And so she did do a program about one of her children's books at the beginning of, at the end of June. And we also had Joe brought in some of his bunnies.
Yeah.
So it was a well-attended program, and then she came back and did a second program that was more geared towards teens, but open to others on actually drawing and illustrating.
Oh, nice. I do remember you talking about the bunnies.
I feel like it was on the day of our last meeting. It was like like we
Yes,
had our meeting and then afterwards it was happening that same day that there were
Yeah.
going to be bunnies in the library.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same date, 6/22. Thank you.
Other questions with regards to the budget report?
I can tell you also, I did ask that the comptroller split the line for, you won't see there's not actually a budget for it, but going forward, you may see, or well, I shouldn't say you may see, you will see an AV line and a separate line for ebooks and e-audio, because I didn't feel like those were the same thing, and I felt like we needed to have a better tracking for what we're spending on the online resources versus a physical DVD, book on CD, or music CD.
And is that split going to happen through all the different categories, or is that just specifically going to be under like services and supplies, or?
That's actually under the books, which is right after this, all of the salary information. It's
Okay.
at the top of page 11. You'll see the AV, ebooks, and e-audio. And in past years, that has covered Hoopla, Overdrive, Canopy, and then also DVDs we've purchased from Midwest Tape, music CDs from Baker, music CDs and audiobooks from Baker and Taylor. And so I just felt like it was important to have a split, because those are two different kinds of services. And I also think that it won't be too much longer before physical DVDs and music CDs and audiobooks are gonna go the way of the dinosaur.
Yeah, it'll all be probably digital download. Okay, if there are no further questions, I'll accept a motion to approve the monthly budget report as submitted.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ashley. Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Oh, oops, a tie. I'm awarding that one to Tara. All right, we have a motion from Ashley, a second from Tara to approve the monthly budget report as submitted. All in favor indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And moving on to the library gift fund report, which looks different today. Oh, maybe not.
It does look a little different,
looks
because it
different.
was previously going down as opposed to going across, but I just left it in the format that I was receiving it from the comptroller as opposed to changing it, because I think it's still very easy to read and understand. So we can't quite seem to kill that gift and donations line. We wound up with some interest on it.
Yeah. Best laid plans. All right, are there any questions or thoughts on the library gift fund report? Right, hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the library gift fund report as submitted.
Motion to approve the library gift fund.
Thank you, Dave. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion from Dave, a second from Joe to approve the library gift fund report as submitted. All in favor, please indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And new business item number 3, consideration and possible action regarding United for Libraries membership and virtual conference, August 1st through the 3rd.
I apologize, because it looks like my information about that did not come through on your report. The conference, United for Libraries is a group for boards of trustees, friends of libraries, foundations. They do offer they used to offer an organizational membership for boards of trustees or friends groups or whatever. Now it's an individual. By the time we got the notice about the early bird for the conference, it was kind of too late. However, Joe is attending. The CLA had approved for her to go. But in the meantime, I also got a scholarship from Penguin Random House. And as part of my scholarship, which wasn't originally announced, I got a free +1. So Joe is my +1, and she will attend, as she has time and as is relative and related to what we're doing. We will also have access to any of their webinars, or any of the webinars and things for, I believe it's 3 months after the conference happens next week. So there's a couple that I will couple of sessions that I will probably attend, and some that, you know, later on, if it seems relevant, I'll go back and look at. I'll at least try to grab handouts if they're available. But sometimes with the live, you're able to then ask questions and get more information that way. But I do think it might be something that we may want to approve one or more board members to get a personal membership so that we're aware. I do have a membership, so it could also be, but should there be any additional conferences or workshops, obviously the member rate is at a lower rate. So we can kind of, I think we can kind of play that by ear. But I do think it's important to know that there is a resource out there that can provide us with more information and potentially be helpful. I think for the CLA, they've got some good things on fundraising and looking at, you know, larger types of fundraising, getting people to leave us money in their wills and things like that. And so I think that that would be helpful, or for ideas for larger events, which may bring in more money.
CL, maybe you could forward that little packet that talks about this to
Yes,
this group too.
yes, I will.
That would be great.
Yep.
Thank you. There's still time to register if someone does still want to attend, right?
Perfect. So, and I would expect that since you're not going to be at the next meeting, maybe at the September meeting, you could provide us with an update about that.
Oh, I suppose. I have to do a book report, really?
Conference report.
Conference report. Sure, no, I'd be glad to.
Perfect. So, CL, is this something that you are wanting us to consider to take action on, or is this really for more information, just for
I
information?
honestly think it's for more information. August did not seem like it was quite so close.
Suddenly, it's next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And like I said, with Joe being the representative from the CLA, I would think that she would share any relevant information with this board as well. And, you know, I've got the scholarship too, so anything that I will share with both groups.
Perfect. In that case, I think we'll table taking any action on this until a future meeting potentially, and then should you decide that you'd like, you know, for us to take action on approving a membership or anything like
Right.
that, then, you know, we'll have more information about it and something actionable. But
Yes.
I hope you all enjoy the conference.
It's all online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes those are the best kinds of conferences. All right, any other thoughts, Dave? I see your microphone on.
Can we go backwards real quick? We didn't cover statistics for the month, and the only reason I mention it is because we don't have a number for circulation.
Oh, were you weren't paying attention?
No, she did kind of touch on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I stated, we were having trouble pulling the reports from Polaris because we are no longer with them. I do believe I'll be able to get them, but
I didn't know that. I didn't know that's what you were talking about.
yeah, that we weren't able to get those statistics, and then getting the circulation statistics from Koha, we haven't quite figured out. Joe was working on the query to do it, and it didn't seem to work quite the way we expected it to. So I wanted you to have accurate statistics instead of just something we pulled out of nowhere.
All right. We will now move on to our next segment of public comment. And hearing no public chomping at the bit to speak, I will call us adjourned at 3:34 p.m.